Thank you guys for taking the time to come here and hear me speak. It means a lot to me. Redefining success. It's been a pivotal theme in my journey. Um, it's something I had all figured out, or so I thought. I also thought that the biggest mystery in my life would always be a woman. Today I know the biggest mystery in my life will always be myself. When God created me, he missed out on a key component, a filter. So, so this will be raw and unfiltered. I'd like to start by showing you guys a video that found me at a time when I was looking for myself. A video that showed me how I was conditioned throughout various environments that I had put myself in or that people put me in, and showed me ways of how I thought I was successful or thought what success was. This is the video.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behaviour is now set for the rest of their lives. And, when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
So I'd like to take you guys back to when I was in the second, third grade. I was about 9, 10 years old, and it was the first time I was heartbroken, and it was the first time that I was ashamed. Basically, I was drawing a silhouette of a naked woman, and I went to a Catholic school, and my teacher was a nun, and she took the photo from me, or the sketch from me, and shamed me in front of the whole school. And I had been going to this school since pre-kindergarten, and the school was up to 8th grade. And this is when I started to disconnect from the love inside myself. I started to create coping mechanisms to protect me from the trauma and the heartbreaks. And fast forwarding a little bit, I take you guys to 4th grade, where I was left back, and I passed all my grades, I passed all my exams, but my teacher and my parents had decided that it was in my best interest to stay back. And this created what I called the new guy syndrome. As I saw all my friends move forward and I was stuck in a class, the new kid. So I created in my mind what was called the new guy syndrome, and also needing this acknowledgement. More coping mechanisms, more heartbreaks, more trauma. I fast forward now to when I'm 11 years old, 11, 12 years old. My parents sent me to Malta for the summer, and I had the time of my life. I did all the things a young boy would dream of doing, and it was great. I had the freedom, experiences, etc. I get home, and the first order of business is we're moving. We're moving out of the city. So I'm a sophomore. I had just done my first year of high school in an all-boys school on the Upper West Side, and it was time to pack everything up and move an hour upstate. So out of the city, into the country, and I get to this school, and there's thousands of kids in this school, War Valley High School, and I compare it to Saved by the Bell. And there you could see where the conditioning was. You can see how there was different groups, the jocks, the punk, the this, the that. And I loved it. I loved bouncing around the various groups. I loved the different music that everybody listened to. I loved the way that they would express themselves through fashion. And I also realized that the seniors had the most fun. So what I thought was successful at this time was to make friends with the seniors so that I can enjoy a summer like I had just previously did in Malta. And that's what I did. That's what I thought was success, and that's what I did. What I didn't realize is that a year later, I was going to show up to school I was a junior, and I showed up to school and I realized that all of my friends are gone again. And I hated it, and that's why I quit school. So I'm 16 years old, and 90% of my energy is devoted on money and sex. That's what I thought was success at the time. And in thinking that this is success, I mean, how much money can a 16-year-old make? So I started thinking of ways where I can make money. Unfortunately, these ways were illegal. And, and I put myself into a situation where, again, here I am, trying to climb the ranks, figuring out what success is for me. And at this current time, the most successful thing that I can come up with was to join a gang, to survive, and come home. And that's what I did. I joined the gang. I served my time in this environment that I had placed myself in, and it was time to come home. So I come home, and I was shocked to get the news that the family business was not doing well. It was going under. I took a big portion of the blame because I felt that my parents had devoted all of their time into bringing me back home. So I took it upon myself to try and save the family business. And this was a process that took 5 years. I achieved it, but it came at a cost. I developed many different coping mechanisms. I developed an addiction on, I think I was addicted to everything at one point, and, like, even food, realistically. And it was a long process. And after this process, and I reached zero, for me it was like reaching a million, and we finally reached zero, and I felt entitled to a piece of the pie. So I went by my dad, and I asked him for a piece of the pie. And if anybody knows me, it wasn't a small piece. So to be fair on him, I asked for a big piece of the pie. He told me no. He told me that, you know, I should know better because I knew what we just went through, and that he has 2 other children. So here I am, heartbroken again, feeling entitled, and that I was like thrown off the throne, and I decided to move to Malta. I was previously in Malta for a weekend, introducing an architect to a developer to try to link them up so that this American architect could work in Malta. In doing so, I was offered a job, a monthly salary, a mobile, and a car. So I left, obviously, my New York. I moved to Malta, and I find myself accepting this job 6 stories underground with 10 migrants who don't speak English and had bad hygiene. And I sat there and I said, you know, this isn't for me. I don't care what they're giving me. This isn't for me. And I did what I always do. I defined what success meant to me, which was being acknowledged by the people who I needed to be acknowledged with and climbing up the ranks that I was so used to doing. And that's what I did. I was given multiple raises. They really couldn't find a way to keep me happy. Every raise I got, they doubled. And the thing I wanted the most was appreciation. I felt that there was never a thank you. There was 0 appreciation, and this is something that broke my heart. I did everything I could for these 2 people who were the world to me. I really looked up to them, and I never felt any appreciation. And in this, I knew that my time was soon going to come to an end, and I started to build a business on the side. And in doing so, I built a fairly large business on the side, and one day I showed up to work, and I abruptly quit. I quit, it wasn't taking well, and I was also blacklisted, and I was told that no one can give me work, or else they can forget about my employers. Then came a series of unfortunate events. I started working on my own. It was nothing but bad news, lots of problems, again, series of unfortunate events. I knew that I would make it because I did what I do best, making moves. And it came the day where I signed a multi-million-dollar contract, which would change my life forever. The multi-million-dollar contract, which would provide me with all the things that I told myself my entire life would make me happy. So I had everything in my life except happiness. And that's when I started to crack. This is when my insecurities started to come out. This is when I was not myself. And I knew I needed to find help. And I went by the 2 people who I felt comfortable the most with telling them what I was going through and how I'm cracking. They gave me their advice, and I took their advice, which was step 1 of removing the stored trauma that I had placed in my nervous system, or that was stored in my nervous system. That was step 1. It was a process. It was a huge integration. When I got out of this 7-day process, the first thing I wanted to do was work on my nutrition. At 32 years of age, I had never eaten a vegetable before. No, I had never eaten a vegetable before, no matter how much anyone tried. And so I started eating nutritious food. I stopped drinking 2 liters of soda a day. I would drink soda even in the middle of the night. And I started training. I started blocking time. And these were ways that I worked on my body. Ways that I changed my mindset was every single person in my life I categorize in 4 ways: associates, acquaintances, friends, and family. And depending on the way they treat me and the way they respect or disrespect my boundaries, I let them sort themselves out. I respect them all the same way, but I let them filter themselves out. Another way is I stopped speaking about myself in the negative. I wouldn't say I am this, or I am that, or I am this, or I am that. Completely stopped speaking about myself in the negative, completely stopped speaking about others in the negative, didn't want to watch the news. I tried completely to stay away from everything that I knew would bring down my vibration, so to speak. Then when it came to thinking of my sexuality, I put 2 things in my mind to help me always stay in my heart and in my mind. One of them is love versus fantasy. So there's this Ozzy Osbourne and Lita Ford song, and it's like a mantra for me. And there's a part where it says, is it love that's on my mind, or is it fantasy? And this is something that really helped me ground myself, ground my life force, so to speak. And I would always put this in my mind: is it love that's on my mind, or is it fantasy? Another way that helped me was observation without analyzation. And when I read this, I was like, this is really stupid. I was like, so if I see a sexy girl and she comes out of the gym, I'm not going to think about all the things I'd like to do with her, you know? And then it came to me, it drawed on me, and I was like, but it's negative, right? So I started really differentiating what's real, what's fake, what's pure, what am I putting in my body that connects me to my roots and to maybe other places that I don't want to be in. And then what chemicals can I put in my body or not put in my body that will keep me closer to my heart and keep me in my mind. Then it came that I finally reconnected with the love inside myself. And today, redefining success for me is connecting with the love inside yourself. Reconnecting with the things that make me happy. I know that what makes me happy is by helping my fellow friends, my lover. It starts at home, then it starts with my friends, and it starts with my colleagues. And my biggest passion I have in life today is to be on the good side. I know there's a lot of big players in the evil and bad and negative side of things in life that we see every day. So I've devoted my life now to always being on the side of good and being one of the players on the side of good. Some ways that I would like to give you of how I connected with the love in myself are as follows: removing trauma from my nervous system, differentiating love versus fantasy, celebrating other people's success, knowing that the universe knows what I want, and when everything flows naturally, it just happens like magic. I don't speak about myself or anyone else in the negative. For me, words are everything. I know they can be cheap, sometimes they can be too much, and sometimes we just need to shut up. And I like to talk, so I had to learn these things the hard way. Letting go of people, places, and things that no longer serve you. This was very hard for me. I don't like to let go. I did have some people pleasing that I needed to work on. It was very hard for me to say no. And the minute I started removing people, places, and things in my life, I made room for new ones to come, and they come quick. Understanding that every situation in my life is about space, time, and tempo. And by this I mean that sometimes you just need to give things space. Everything's a space, every environment is a space, and moving through it takes time. And in relation to tempo, it's the motion and the time in which you move through it. So I feel today that there's no situation in life that if you don't apply space, time, and tempo to it, I feel like you'll always win if you apply those 3 things in any situation. From setting up this talk, I've realized that regardless of any environment I was in or any environment I put myself in, I always succeeded. And I had this realization that I need to start picking better environments. So I'm quite careful of the environments I pick right now. Thank you guys for hearing me out. That's all I have. Cheers. Thank you.